Good afternoon and welcome back to Gulfstream Park. Thank you for joining us here on this Sunday afternoon at Gulfstream today. I'm Gabby Gaudette, joined by Andy Serling. And well, yesterday had a lot of rain. Today, you couldn't ask for better weather. Unfortunately, our thoughts go out to all of the people north of us, though.
A lot of the people that are watching the show, they wish it was Sunday. It's actually Saturday today, believe it or not.
Did I say Sunday?
Yes,
Saturday.
Yes, everybody.
I didn't even know.
Pretty much everyone we know is stuck up in a snowstorm up, and we hope everybody is safe. Actually, I want to thank our man Antonio, who works for us in the TV truck in New York. He braved the weather to come in just so that these races could be shown in the homes in the New York area. So we got to thank him so people can watch at home.
There's a lot of bad weather north. I was actually speaking to some of my family members in Maryland, and they're getting a lot of snow. So hopefully they can tune in to us this afternoon, though, because we do have a pretty great card this afternoon as well.
Looking forward to the races, and the weather's cleared up here. It's not, so just so you know, it's not quite as warm as it could be, but with no complaints down here. The weather is much better, and obviously the storm looks pretty bad up there, actually.
It does indeed. We'll take a look at today's card, and only one race has been taken off the turf, and that is race 1, and we'll also take a look at our featured wagers and carryovers. Race 1 does kick off the rolling super high 5. That also does start the 50-cent pick 5. As we get into the 6th race on today's card, the 20-cent rainbow pick 6 does kick off. Carryover over $106,000 in that carryover continues to grow. And race 7 kicks off the 50-cent late pick 5 as well. So we'll take a look at race 1. Again, originally carded for the turf, will run on the main track in 1 mile and a 16th, and I believe you have a little ticket.
I do have a ticket to start it out. I think $36 is going to be the number. These are not easy sequences, and I'm going to use the 2 MTOs along with the 5, who actually Main Man Mike, who I liked on turf or dirt in the first race, singling a heavy favorite that neither you and I are particularly thrilled with in the second race. We'll get to that horse. There just seem to be no alternatives given the scratch of the 3, the firster, and hopefully we can find a way to get that last leg and have 4 chances to hit it. The first race, and I think a theme of today's card is that these races are relatively wide open. We were talking about it beforehand. You feel like you're taking a number of shots today, but it feels like with these races and some bigger fields in these races, there's opportunities. I don't think we're not going to see a slew of 3 to 5 shots. Obviously, Charming Kitten in the stake is going to be a heavy favorite. But throughout this card, you're not seeing a card with odds-on favorites.
There are some tricky races, absolutely, especially with this first race on the main track. We have 2 horses who have actually drawn in off, not off the also eligible, but for main track only. And oddly enough, they are both Peter Walder horses. This is his MO. So you take a look at these main track only entrants. They do seem to be the horses to beat on paper. However, both of us decide to try to beat them.
Well, I mean, one thing that has to be noted about them is it's a 1 mile and a 16th race, and even with the race off the turf, there's really not many scratches. There's still 12 horses running. So they have posts 11 and 12. So even if they were overwhelming, they would have trouble from those outside posts. Those are very, very tricky posts with the races hitting the turn. So you want to have a horse that's close to more towards the inside.
And looking at their past performances as well, the reason why I didn't go against them, okay, you look at the 14 in here. He's coming out of claiming Crown Day on an off track, but his past 3 races have really been subpar in comparison to what he was running previously. So you have to kind of question what direction is he headed.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but on the other hand, considering the field he's in against, I mean, it's very hard to find a lot of dirt for him in here. And he does seem like a sort of logical horse. I mean, these are horses, you know, the 15 ran a 79 buyer. He was running even his 72 back would make him tough in here, but can he overcome the post?
He very well could overcome the post, but even the 15 all over it, he comes out of a race where he won as the short price favorite, and it wasn't that strong of a race. Honestly, the second place finisher ran mostly on turf, third place finisher ran mostly on synthetic, and even though a couple other horses were really like 2 for 25, so it wasn't that strong of a race. That's why I opt to go to the inside to primarily a turf horse, the 2 out of the depths. But he is a 5-time winner on the main track. And you look at some of his more recent main track performances. A good track at Laurel back in November. He faced Ponzi Scheme, who is grade 2 placed, Concealed Identity, who's a stakes winner. That was a very tough race, all considering the level. You even go back to back at Pimlico, he faced A Other Than Company on Preakness Day. So he's getting a tremendous class, really.
And he does feel like a horse that'll be reasonably forwardly placed. I think the 9-horse Near Change in Command could end up being the speed. It's a tough horse to take on the dirt in this race. He's got the one wet track race where he did no running whatsoever, finishing second at 1-5 in a 2-horse field. He did stumble badly to start. Who knows? He did get a horrifically bad ride last time out. We'll see if that changes. But why would you want him on the dirt? For me, the 5-horse who I put on top is the horse who I thought was victimized badly in the turf last time by a slow pace and forced to make a wide middle move because he had no choice. But he's a horse, if you look back and you see even the last dirt race showing, he finished 5th behind horses like Sky Commander and Sevi in a 25 claimer. I think it fits here. He's won on a wet track. The track is listed at fast. Don't know if there's any moisture or not because the wind has dried it out. He looked okay to me based on some of his dirt races in general.
Okay, we'll move on to the second race here at Gulfstream, a maiden 12,500 event. 7 furlongs on the main track, and I believe this is where your single comes in the early pick 5. It's really hard to make a case against the 1 Leopards Hill Road. I actually tried to make a case for the 2 Baby Antonella and the 3 Starship Pandora. Unfortunately, all my options are gone.
Yeah, it's hard, and we'll take a look at Leopards Hill Road's last race. And actually, I think it's easy, to make a case against this horse. The problem is with whom?
Exactly.
You know, this was a disgraceful loss here by this horse. I mean, Javier did everything right. He saved ground. He got in position. As you can see on the screen, the horse that's in front of him he won't catch is an 80-to-1 shot. Horses at 1-5 are supposed to catch 80-to-1 shots, especially when they get good trips getting there. The problem that we have here is who else can you possibly take in this race? And he looks to be the lone speed today, so it doesn't feel like he's going to have to run somebody down.
They could very well get aggressive from that inside post, even going into that race, too. For the barn, we had a negative stat that I remember showing. The barn usually doesn't do this with big class droppers like that, directly, like 2 starts against Maiden Special Weight Company to the bottom. So I knew he was vulnerable last time out. I tried to go against him. And it's tough to make a case for anybody else. The 9 Foxy Gator I kind of threw in, but coming out of very slow races. Now she's dropping back down in class for a barn who does relatively well. Again, the 6 you throw in here, the Red Tour, who you don't really have any form to work on.
He's run very well in his 2 races. It's just very hard to tell when he was eased and he got beaten 30 lengths. I really wasn't sure what to do with Leopards Hill Road until we got that tweet this morning. When we got the tweet from somebody that he was the lock of the day, I think at that point was when we really solidified my position on him at 1-5.
All right. Well, thankfully we did get that information.
It was important. It was a big relief to me.
We'll take a look at moving on to race 3 at 6,250 non-winners, a 2 lifetime conditions, 6.5 furlongs on the main track. And this is also a very interesting race. Anybody could win it.
This is a tough race. I totally agree. I think I'm using 3 horses now here in my pick, the 2, 3, and 7. The 7 Cherise Win we're gonna show the last race, and I've got this horse second. You've got her on top in here. My problem with her is I bet her last time, and she definitely had some trouble at the break, and she made that wide move. It does seem like a track that was conducive to her running style last time out, but still, she ran a winning race. The problem is I bet her last time at 7-1, and she's going to be maybe half that or less today, and I just can't bet horses like that back at me, but I have to use her in the pick 5.
I agree with you, and anybody could maybe talk me off this horse too. I thought she had trouble at the break. Obviously, she kind of dwelt at the start, and then also it seemed as though the rider kind of broke in her mouth a little bit, so she checked early. But as you said, she was about 4 or 5 wide. That was mainly the better part of the track to be on that day, so the fact that she really couldn't win from really the best position on the track, I thought was a negative. But on the cutback third off the freshening, I land on her. The 3 Starship Tammy, she is another filly that makes sense. First off the claim for trainer Kathy Mungen. She was actually the opposite of the 7 Cherise Win, where she was kind of on the worst part of the track.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking for reasons to play a horse in here because it's hard to come up with a reason to really like a horse in this race. And for me, with Starship Tammy, coming in last time out, she was 4 wide in the turn. It was a day that you had to be down the inside. We already played against Is True at 8-5 in a subsequent start because He was on the gold rail. She was on the gold rail in that race. And so this horse was against it. That's good enough for me. Now, Kathy Mongeon does not have good numbers off the claim. She just won for 18, 6%. Having said that, I don't really care. I'm not going to not use a horse because it's off the claim and those stats. That's going to be a fair price because it's very hard to make plays. I mean, they're going to bet Rock All Day, who might be inside speed, but this horse has one race in the dirt. Better Horses or Not was a complete disaster. 5 on 5 is going to take some money, going to be involved in the pace, perhaps with Rock All Day. But even the win on the dirt, that wasn't a particularly fast race at 5.5 furlongs. And do I want that horse at 6.5 furlongs? I don't.
I don't think I do either. The two, well, you feel this, Cornelius. I actually threw this filly in because she's cutting back slightly in distance today. She's coming out of the same types of races behind Sherry's win. But limited sampling in terms of her main track performances. She only has 3 performances on the main track. She has a little bit of speed, so I'm just hoping that she can maybe take a step forward.
No, you don't need a lot of reason to like a horse in this race.
Okay, with that said, we'll move on to the 4th race, another maiden 12,500, 7 furlongs onto the main track. And I thought this was kind of a tricky race, and I made my top selection by process of elimination, primarily.
Okay, we don't know who it is. I'm dying to know who your top selection is in this race because apparently they're withholding it. For there it is. Oh, and boy, was it worth the wait.
Calypso music. There you go. Drum roll, please. We have the 5, Grace Quinn and Anna
Don't
Maddie.
try to push it on me. I want to hear why you like Calypso music.
I'll give you my
trying to get out
spiel
of this one.
because I don't really have one. But the 3 Calypso music, again, I thought in debut, she faced much tougher company. They gave her some time off. She came back. Lasix for the first time last time out. She was 3rd in a 12-horse field. She looked like she was at least willing to the finish, kind of in the middle of the racetrack. Now she stretches out to the 7 furlongs. But I will say, the winner of that race was a long-time maiden. She was a class dropper, but she was a long-time maiden. So the other horses, the one Starshiner, does cut back in distance. Connections don't do very well with this type of angle. I believe it's 0 for 13. So by process of elimination, I land on the 3.
The one Starshiner is probably the worst to beat. You've got a rider that doesn't ride at a high percentage, to say the least, and that's probably a little bit of a knock. But how much do you want to split hairs here? Probably the worst to beat. I put Grace Quinn and Anna Maddie.
I'm guessing they're grandchildren or something. I don't know. Grace Quinn.
I'm going to say that is the biggest favorite in this race. Is there's a grandchild angle in the name of this horse, which
angle.
I got to think Larry Colmus is really happy about. I think Larry would probably like to send greetings. Probably wants to the birthday of all these children so that he can send them a note because he's dying to call this horse and is probably hoping this horse is involved in a stretch duel with somebody else's name you can't pronounce. Having said that, you know, it's funny. I was talking to Mike Welsh with this horse who thought the workout reports weren't that strong on this horse. And that is something I'm concerned with because those workout reports, they're sensational. And those BRF workout reports are really, they're worth getting. And I have great respect for them. The problem is this is kind of a D field, so I don't know how fast this horse should be working or how well it should be working. I'm going to stick with this horse just on the drop down, hoping he gets it done for Dale Romans. The 1 and 5 are the 2. I'm going to try to limp through the big 5 with them.
You could even get the 6 Forever Afleet. Nick Gonzalez does relatively well, about 31% with the turf to dirt angle, so I wouldn't be surprised if any horse won that race, to be honest. We'll move on to the 5th race, an open 6,250 claiming event, a mile and a 16th on the main track. And taking a look at this race, do we have? Yes, we do have a trainer stat I'll get to in a second. But altogether, we have a couple of horses that are coming in here with new barns.
Be careful. I'm thinking of telling my joke about Steve in this race.
What is
you
that?
have a new barn. You have a trainer change. You have a stat on Terry Pompey with a small number of horses.
A very small number.
With horses off the claim. The problem I have with Steve, frankly, is the post. If Steve had the rail, I'd pick Steve on top.
I have a little story about Steve because I really haven't liked him any start of his career. Now today, I opt for him today. I think he definitely is a trying horse at this level. But interesting stats. Yes, they are small. Potent stats, 3 for 6, 50%, 5 for 6 in the money and a positive ROI with these types of horses. First off the claim on dirt and low-level claimers. So I thought that was an interesting stat. Yes, he's going to have to overcome that outside post. I thought that race came up relatively tough last time out, though. Congenial and El Gran Joyful. I'm just hoping, I think he can get 2 turns. I'm just hoping for a good position going into the turn.
You can tell by the speed figure, the fact that he was beaten 6 lengths and ran a figure over 60 in a $6,000 claiming race. It definitely came a tough race. I have no argument with any of that. I'm not against him as a horse. I just hate the post position for him. And for me, Undertaker, by the way, that's a really kind of a dreary name for a horse. To rename a horse Undertaker, that's a little rough. I look at his races, and he's a horse who was just in way over his head last time. I mean, the lights of percussion, and that was a race where the pace basically held together. I mean, the one horse came and got him, but nobody else gained an inch of ground, and they're better horses. And Monmouth, he ran a $16,000 claiming race and ran a figure in the mid-60s. I have question marks about him, but see, I don't think his form has taken a huge drop down. I just think he was way above his head last time. He's a logical horse, drawing towards the inside along with Charge, who gets a nice rider change to Luis Saez. Last time in the dirt, ran a figure. If he runs a 76 in here, they won't know where he's coming from. He's going to win this race.
Yeah, I think he's definitely competitive, and a horse just to his inside that you use in the 2 Charge. This horse is his first race off the layoff was strong. Even the 8 Air Squadron, even 4 new connections, I thought was kind of sharp. And yes, he does draw that outside post, but he's fast.
And he's also getting a rider change from a rider who thinks that the finish line is the top of the stretch.
All right. Well, with that said, that's races 1 through 5. And we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. We do have a very nice carryover, over $106,000. I have a ticket right after this. Welcome back to Gulfstream today, and taking a look at the 20-cent Rainbow Pick 6. Have a carryover over $106,000 today, and I thought the sequence was relatively tough, but I do have a key horse in Charming Kitten later on today. So taking a look at the sequence, I'm really covering myself actually in the first 4 legs, singling on the 1 in race 9, and only using 2 horses in the final leg of the sequence.
No, I understand the thinking, and I think in playing these multis, I'm going to use one other horse besides Charming Kitten. We get to my pick 5, but he's the biggest single of the day, and he's a very, very hard horse to beat in that race. This is a very, very interesting race, the 6th race, and I'm so glad we're able to run on the turf. You do have to start out by showing both Todd Pletcher horses, Kismet's Heels and Gimlet, and they are way the horses to beat. I actually prefer Gimlet of the 2, and we'll go to that replay and show them at the half-mile pole. The reason I prefer Gimlet, now both of these horses saved ground in the first turn. I know Kismet's Heels moved up into better position, but I thought that Gimlet made this big, huge, wide middle move, and you're going to see it coming. The 7 is Kismet Heels, who's on the outside in the picture right now. The 1 just left the picture, was in the picture. The 7 is making the move 3 wide, but you're going to see Gimlet make this huge wide move at this point. I just don't think Javier felt he had any choice as you see him coming in the picture. He was also the one they were betting in there. The word was out that they loved Gimlet, and I thought he was more compromised by Tripp, even though he finished behind Kismet's Heels. But both of these horses ran well, Gabby.
And they were both very wide, even though Gimlet was wider than Kismet's Heels in this. They were both very wide, and you can see they're both finishing very well. So these are both horses that you don't want to throw off your tickets. I just thought the turn of foot that I saw from Kismet's Heels in the final couple of strides there was a bit stronger.
Well, I think that I'm going to bank that Gimlet was tired from having to make that move. Now, I don't think both these horses have to win it here, and I feel very strongly that Hint of Roses might be too good for these horses. The connections have liked Hint of Roses on the dirt, and I don't think they were that wrong last time. I actually think he ran okay. When you consider the dynamics of the race last time, that nobody closed, the inside was the place to be, et cetera, Hint of Roses ran all right in there. This is a dam that's produced 2 horses to run on the turf. They both won. But she's also a half to Kitten's Joy and Precious Kitten. So this is a gigantic turf pedigree for this horse, getting onto the turf, which is probably the right surface, and I'm going to take my chances that this horse is better than both of Todd's horses.
The mare was very nice. Even some of the siblings as well have preferred the turf. Lead 'em in Ken Prissy was another one, a 4-time winner on the turf. So I thought this was a very sneaky horse. Now, a mile and an eighth, you have a decent run into the first turn. I love the fact that Joel Rosario's on this horse as well, because he has been doing a fantastic. I don't know if there's another rider that has had the more outside post positions on the turf than he, but he has been just riding them to perfection.
I think Joel, when he's been riding, has been riding great. He won 3 races yesterday, and they weren't any, horses that weren't relative favorites in there. But I think Joel just hasn't ridden as much as some of the other guys. But when he's ridden very well.
The one Nana Luch I thought was kind of interesting. I just used him as maybe a priced horse from that inside on the ticket, at least, kind of my 4th selection when he debuted. It was a decent second. I know against lesser company, but I'll throw him in with Paco.
Yeah, I just have a tough time seeing anybody beat all of Pletcher and the one I'm throwing in, but we'll see.
All right, moving on to the 7th race, starter optional claiming event, 7.5 furlongs on the turf course, and this does kick off the late pick 5.
Yeah, we'll show my pick 5 ticket. And God, we don't have that much time. We need more time here, Gabby. My ticket is 5-7. I like the 5. I like the 7 this race. The 5's the worst to beat. In fact, we'll go to a replay of the 5's last win when we're done with this ticket. I'm going to use 2 because I think there's a chance St. Albans Boy can beat the favorite. We'll try to get through it. I could put 360 into it. We'll put 36 and use it as a guide. I thought this was a very interesting race in here. And as we show Alsby breaking his maiden December 19th, I think that he's the horse to beat in here. But I think a lot of people, Gabby, are going to be mesmerized by that 10 3/4 length win. We have a lousy stat for Marcus Vitale that we're going to show after this replay. And he's meeting he met a field last time where there was no competition. That's why he won by 10 lengths.
No competition whatsoever, and he was coming out of relatively strong races up in New York. And again, it was a huge class relief in my opinion. And now there's something to be said for Bill Mott also dropping this horse in for $35,000, and we can see first off the claim for Marcus Vitale.
I agree, because I thought he ran well against a very slow pace 2 races back, so he probably did kind of dump this horse. You got bad numbers with that situation. I like Parmel Landing in here, the 7, who I believe is going to benefit from a rider change to Joel. I don't think it was Paco's fault last time. There's nothing he could do. He drew post 14, and he got caught 5 wide in the first turn. Expended too much energy trying to get position that he just couldn't keep and had to lose because of that. And I think tired because of that, but didn't run that badly. And I'm hoping now gets a better trip in here with a better post.
He also checked very badly, too.
He was kind of done at that point,
He was done, but you always have to consider, what kind of energy those types of scenarios. You're wide going into the first turn. You're checking going in at the quarter pole. It expends a lot of energy. The 8 Irish Colonel was one I thought was actually pretty legitimate on the cutback here. Last time out, it almost looked as though Joe Bravo, this horse was constantly pulling down on the inside, and he had to keep checking him on the backside. And that's another factor you have to take into consideration. How much energy did he expend with that on the backstretch? I also thought it was a little bit premature of a move. He kind of kicked clear, and it almost benefited the second wave of horses.
I agree. I think, though, what you said, I wouldn't blame Joe for the move.
No,
I think in this case, the horse took him there. 7.5 is better. I still think it might be a little far, to be honest, this horse, but he's definitely in the mix in here. And listen, McGev can win as well, as could the 3 horse here, Coping in a way. I'm just going to try to get the 7 home.
Okay, we'll take a look at the 8th race, an open 6,250 claimer, 7 furlongs on the main track, and an interesting race as well, especially with the scratch of the 11 Racetrack Romance, who really figured in here.
Yeah, no, I agree. He in a way, he felt like a reliable horse in here to lean on, even though I was going to try to beat him with the 14. Him coming out, you're taking the 7 in here, Chillin' Dillon, who certainly has a chance in here, I think is my 4th selection.
Yeah, Chillin' Dillon. I haven't really been a fan of this horse in the past several starts, but I stick on him today because last time out he drew post 11, even the start before that post 7. Today I thought it was a decent post, especially on the cutback to 7 furlongs. If you look back at his races at 7 furlongs, they were against tough company. He's run well at the distance, runs with bulls, Grand Shores he had to run against at this distance. So I'm handicapping it thinking that he likes the distance and he's getting a class relief from those prior efforts.
I have no problem with that. My only knock on him was he was on the rail last time, and the rail was really the place to be. So he managed to get the rider did a very good job of getting down there, and he didn't take advantage of it. With the 14 trier, I like the fact that he's cutting back to 7 furlongs. I like that he's getting a rider switch. Once again, he had a rider who made a very aggressive premature move on this horse, 3 to 4 wide, that I think really affected him in that race, and now he's getting that less distance. You look at the pace of the race, I don't know what the hurry was with this horse, but there apparently was a big hurry. And I think he'll benefit from that situation. And if you look back to his prior dirt race in a $10,000 claiming race. He ran a race that would blow these out of the water. So I'm hoping last time his excuse was a wide premature move.
And not to mention the rider yesterday, Misael Jaramillo, was riding the track very well and very savvy because he knew that speed was doing relatively well. He would send horses out of the gate, so it's definitely something to pay attention to.
I agree. It'll be interesting to pay attention to the tracks. We haven't talked about that. Yesterday, the inside seemed to be very much the place to be. It wasn't a huge bias, but it seemed to be good, and we had
That's
seen
fair.
the outs. Right, we'd seen the outside be beneficial in a lot of wet track days. Not the case yesterday. Don't know how that affects today's track, if at all.
Okay, we'll go to the 9th race, our featured race of the day, 2 miles on the turf course.
I was tired just handicapping.
I wasn't, because I thought
It was relatively easy.
Yeah, it was relatively easy. We do have a couple of scratches, though, in this race. So the 3 Morning Calm and the 5 Good and Proper, but it does look like Charming Kitten's race to lose.
All right, we'll take a look at Charming Kitten in a very game win in the McKnight last time. It looked like Kagan was going to catch him. Now, Kagan does have a little bit of hang in him. Kagan's an amazing horse. He can win from 6 furlongs to 1.5 miles. Apparently, they're not going to try him, though, at 2 miles today. He was good in here, and the good Charming Kitten, who's won, he's actually won at this distance in beating Irish Mission a couple of years ago at Belmont in our 2-mile Belmont Gold Cup, which we run the day before the Belmont Stakes. He's much the worst to beat. Now, St. Albans boy, who finishes 4th in here, I don't think he ran great, but I did think he was a little bit hampered by losing position in there and felt to me like he had a little bit of a chance to close the gap.
I also like him because there should be a little bit of cut in the ground today as well. We had a lot of rain yesterday. He actually won the Laurel Turf Cup on a good course at Laurel. He ran well at Keeneland in the Kentucky Turf Cup, the Grade 3 on a good course. So again, I think the turf conditions today might even benefit him.
Yeah, we'll see if it helps him. And, you know, once again, when you have the turf has a little taken some rain, maybe it doesn't help Charming Kitten in here. He's handled good surfaces, but you don't know if he's going to run as well on this surface. They look like the right 2 horses, Roca d'Oro. We have it the same way.
He should be. He's going to be forwardly placed in here as well.
But so is Charming Kitten. He's not going to be compromised.
That's the reason. That's why Charming Kitten's so good at this distance too, is because he's so he's got positional speed. He's a stayer. He can run all day. So it's really hard to go against him.
He's a heavy favorite for a reason.
All right, we'll move on to the 10th race, the first half of the late daily double on this 11-race card, a $16,000 claiming event, 7.5 furlongs on the turf course. And we'll take a look at the most recent replay for General...
Two-back, actually, for him.
For General Chamat.
Yeah, I wanted to show his race from two-back because he was... This is the reason that his connections put him in the wrong spot last time. He ran very well in here, and I thought the rider actually gave him a good ride. He took him back to make one big run. You see him in those yellow silks. They actually look very, very much like the silks of Michael Dubb. When I first saw it, I thought that was a Dubb horse, and it wasn't. This horse ran a shockingly good race at 90-1. He wasn't a lucky horse. It's not like other horses were making big runs in there. I know that I'm a Wide Awake, I think, finished 4th in this race. And, you know, he didn't run that badly either. But I thought that General Chamat actually ran well. And when you look back, he's got back go-to turf races that are okay. And then, for whatever reason, when he ran well, they decided to run him over his head. Maybe it was the spot that came up. They were helping make a race go. But he was just way over his head last time. Now he's back in a reasonable spot, and I can't criticize the rides that his rider gave him, but it doesn't hurt to pick up Jose Lezcano, who's really ridden very well in the opportunities he's gotten down here, and I just think he's a super logical horse in this spot.
And talking about the 4 I Feel Great, a horse that you and I both used, my only concern about this horse is the distance. He does look like, even though he is a winner at this distance, it looks like he's very sharp, or at least a little bit sharper, at one-turn distances on the turf.
Yeah, I'm a little worried that this race is too far for him. I'm going to use him. He's gone this distance effectively, but I think he's better shorter. I did not like Arch in the Park, your horse, who I just thought got an absolutely perfect trip last time against a much weaker field.
He did.
And Breek was incredibly unlucky to lose that race.
He did. And the reason why I go back to him today is because he does have some back turf races that have been competitive against tougher company. Yes, everything went his way, but he's the type of horse that has that stalking speed, and sometimes at this distance, it all matters on the position that you get, and he seems like a horse that always finds himself to be put in a good position.
Oh, he figures to be the speed in this race. I don't think he'll have a problem in that spot, and if not, he'll be making a premature move in here. I just can't take him off his last race, but I'm going to be wrong more than a few times today. That's a certainty.
It's a tricky card. It really is. The 6 Havermeyer Street I threw into just thinking that his last race was just too bad. You go to his race at Gulfstream Park West, it was quite decent in the past. Again, this is a horse who's a 3-time winner at Gulfstream. I don't have a strong case for him, but he gets Paco Lopez. There's strong connections with Michael Petro. He might be a horse that could win at a price.
Okay.
We'll move on to the 11th and final race on the card, a maiden $35,000 event, rail set at 120 feet. At 7.5 furlongs, and the 7 Slapjack, you and I both agree on.
Feels like a very logical horse in this race, and a horse that you have to use. He's dropping down, and he's run races that are fast, maybe too fast. He's coming out of a race that it was a graded maiden race, and he's running in a maiden $35,000 claimer. He's just supposed to be very tough.
Very tough. Giant Run and Spectre Lindley, 2 very talented horses. I thought that was one of the tougher turf races, at least turf maiden special weights, that we've seen so far at the meet. So a considerable drop in class. You have the 10, Tokaran, who I really liked. Unfortunately, I did think that he might have benefited on a firmer going.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I just think he's been running against better horses. I don't know what to make of his last race because he didn't run well in there, but he also had an outside post and a low percentage rider, and he's switching to Luis Saez. I think the Saez switch here is very, very beneficial, and he's got the one race on November 28th at Gulfstream Park West, and you may be right. It was the last time he was on a firm turf, so maybe he doesn't like the give in the ground, but I have to use him in here because you look at the horse I have third and you have second, the one English Mahiver, and this is a horse that he was a distant third behind Osby. I mean,
we don't
like nobody, right? That was just a terrible field. Maybe he'll be effective here, but I think the fact that you and I both have this horse deeply in the mix shows that we don't have a lot of confidence in too many horses in this race.
The only other horse that I think I would consider, at least for those pick 6s or pick 5s, the 5 Silver Wrath. I do kind of like this horse for Marcus Vitale because he gets Javier Castellano in the saddle. He dueled kind of with a dawdling pace last time out, and I almost wonder on the cutback here if this horse would prefer not to go to the lead but sit a stalking trip.
Oh, that's a very interesting point. The problem is he's not the speed in this race, so he's probably going to be farther back in here. I'm not sure how it's going to play out. Problem is he's never really gone long, and we don't know if he really wants to go this far. But I got him 4th. He's far from impossible.
Still has to go 2 turns at 7.5 furlongs. Right. And with that said, that's races 1 through 11. Once again, our pick 6, we do have a carryover over $106,000. That starts in the 6th race, pick 5 in the 7th race as well. But an interesting card as well. And I think that's enough talking for us now.
We have done enough. Larry Colmus will come up, and he will take the talking mantle in just a few moments.
We'll pass the baton, right. But we'll be back before the first race. Thank you once again for joining us here on Gulfstream today, and best of luck on today's card.